Hello everyone and welcome to SplitSecond. My name is Sequeira and I will be taking you through today's match. In celebration of hitting 6,000 subscribers, we are having two giveaways. The first to our patrons who have been there supporting us this whole time, and the second to our subscribers. Look for the end of the video for more on these giveaways. Pedro Leite is becoming a welcome SplitSecond regular as he came this week to play in Brandão's stead. Our decks are me with Akiri/Silas anti-wincons by myself and Brandão, Pedro Leite with Ikra and Thrasios at Now's Farm, David on his Brokkos Infect, and finally Baal with his brew of Winota stacks. I won the roll and will be starting this week. I mulliganed twice and kept a decent hand. Exotic Orchard and March Flats can cover a lot of my colors, while Felwar Stone could help me against moon effects. Sadistic Sacrament is a really aggressive anti-wincon card that can shut down an entire deck's combo lines, and perfect to use versus late. Ashiok Dream Render is excellent hate and can be used as fodder for Silas or for the Lurrus that is also in my hand. I sent Mana Confluence to the bottom of my library. Leite mulliganed once and kept Morphic Pool and his own Exotic Orchard for lands. He has Gitaxian Probe for early cantripping and control of someone's hand. Mana Vault is always great ramp, and Wishclaw Talisman can help Leite in getting an early combo piece or ad nauseam. Fierce Guardianship and Pact of Negation are both excellent for protecting him. We keep the mulligan fad with David, who did it once and kept a somewhat flooded hand with Bloodstained Mire, Scalding Tarn, Exotic Orchard, and Watery Grave. He does have a Sensei's Divining Top to help him filter through his draws. He also has a Contagious Nim to slap Brokkos onto and start infecting, and Flux Channeler to proliferate the infect. Baal mulliganed to 6 and didn't want to go lower, so he kept a 1-lander. He has a basic mountain. His idea is that he just needs 1 white mana for his Enlightened Tutor to turn into a land tax. Harsh Mentor and Thalia Guardian of Thraben are both good hate. Silence and Deflecting Swat can help him interact with us. Penance was sent to the bottom of his library. Time to play the match. I start with a simple Marsh Flats, passing. Leite starts up with Gitaxian Probe after hearing Baal mention his hand is pretty ballsy. He sees just how risky the keep was before drawing 1. Then he plays Morphic Pool into Mana Vault, potentially threatening a turn 2 ad nauseam. David plays Tropical Island and Sensei's Divining Top, ready to make his draws better. Finally, Baal plays a mountain and passes, hinting at not having found what he was looking for. I crack my fetch for a Savai Triome on his end step. My draw this turn makes me go for Akiri rather than Felwar Stone. The table sees no payoffs but otherwise is unbothered. Leite plays Exotic Orchard and casts Thrasios. No ad nauseam, so the table relaxes a bit. He passes. On his main phase, David casts Rainstorm. He then plays Scalding Tarn so that he is able to smoothen his hand and the next draws. Pretty good stuff. Baal draws and passes. On his end step, I check Leite for free counter magic as I cast Deadly Relic on his Thrasios. Leite reveals he has some, as Fierce Guardianship protects his commander from harm. I play an untapped Blood Crypt and cast Sadistic Sacrament on Pedro Leite, looking to take him out of the match as far as combo is concerned. Leite reads the card and opens the social stack with a complaint about how it destroys him, so he very sadly casts a Pact of Negation, hoping no one can kill his Mana Vault and take him out. My Sacrament gets countered. I go to end step and Mana Vault does not get destroyed. Leite pays the Pact tax on his upkeep, effectively being sent a few turns behind. His Mana Vault starts the slow, grinding process of pinging his face. He plays an untapped Breeding Pool and casts Birds of Paradise with it, entering recovery mode. Leite attacks David with Thrasios. Only 20 commander damage to go. On Leite's end step, David cracks his fetch for an Underground Sea. He activates the Divining Top. On his turn, David plays a forest and casts Contagious Nim, ready to start infecting the board. He passes. Baal once again misses a land drop and is now in a pretty bad position. On my turn, I cast Felwar Stone and look to disable Leite's recovery by casting Cursed Totem, taking out both birds and Thrasios' activated abilities. I attack Leite with Akiri because of the ad nauseam/necropotence plans. Leite's Mana Vault pings him before he casts Wishclaw Talisman on his turn, looking for other ways to recover. He passes to David, who plays an exotic orchard. David innocently attacks Leite with the Nim. Having a useless Thrasios, Leite puts it in front of the Nim, soaking up the damage and getting two -1/-1 counters on it. David passes. Baal finds the Gemstone Caverns, not at all the land he hoped for. Still, he casts Harsh Mentor. David responds by activating his top, and Leite jokes that the Curse Totem is now playing to his favor. Baal passes to me. I pray for a land and behold, top deck Flooded Strand. I crack it and take additional damage from Harsh Mentor. I get myself a basic island since I'm pretty sure Baal's greedy keep meant he had something impactful planned, namely a moon. I play Ashiok Dream Render and follow it up with Dranith Magistrate to lock David out of casting Brokkos onto the Contagious Nim and Leite out of his Wishclaw. The table is not amused. I use Ashiok targeting myself because of Lurrus. I don't find a proper payoff. Once again, Leite is attacked by Akiri and he chooses to take that damage over the Infect. I pass. Leite takes one from Mana Vault, casts Elves of Deep Shadow, and passes his turn, not too happy about it. On his turn, David tries to mutate a Sawtusk Demolisher onto his Infect creature, threatening to start hitting us for serious damage. Leite isn't keen on this particular plan, so he casts Mana Drain to protect himself. Not pleased, David attacks Leite with his Infect creature and Leite gets his first 2 poison counters. Baal finally finds his white mana when he top decks a Battlefield Forge. I brace myself for the moon, but instead Baal casts Archon of Emeria to try and slow us down. He joins the attack Leite gang by hitting him with Harsh Mentor, just because Leite will have mana for a potentially big turn. He passes. On my turn, I play a Pyrite Spellbomb, both a Lurrus payoff and a good way to control a few cards on the table. I activate Ashiok, this time around targeting Leite just because the Archon makes using Lurrus awkward. Finally, Leite mills a bunch of flood that was coming for him. I attack him with Akiri once again and Leite blocks with his elves. The stars align when Leite quite literally top decks a Cyclonic Rift after the vault pinged him. He casts it with Overload, completely changing the game's dynamics and regretting having lost his Elves of Deep Shadow just one turn ago. I sacrifice the Spell Bomb to kill Thrasios just because I plan on casting the Magistrate. Harsh Mentor slaps me across the face. The rift resolves and Leite activates the Wishclaw Talisman while he can, giving it to Baal. He passes the turn, all but saved. David plays Polluted Delta and casts the Nim once again. He fetches for a basic island and casts the Divining Top before passing. Baal uses the Talisman and, after a lot of discussion, gives it back to Leite. He plays the basic planes and chooses to prioritize the Archon, making my next turn slightly more awkward. I play a tapped Plateau. Because I want to deny the Brokkos Infect potential and Baal from getting Winota value, I choose to cast the Magistrate before passing. Leite's Mana Vault keeps grinding his face before he plays the Time Twister he fetched for last turn. He then plays a Command Tower and moves to End Step. David uses this time to cast Chain of Vapor on Baal's Archon, sending the Boros stack player one turn behind once again. Baal sacrifices Gemstone Caverns and bounces David's Nim just in case. On his turn, David plays a different Infect Boy, Plague Stinger, which has flying. He casts Sylvan Library for card advantage and plays an untapped Watery Grave before passing. On his upkeep, Baal casts Enlightened Tutor for a land tax. Before he gets to draw that, I cast Brain Freeze on him and on myself. Baal mentions there's better tutors around and I assure him I have that under control. Baal plays Bloodstained Mire and cracks it for a Plateau before once again prioritizing the Archon, especially after a wheel. He passes. I play a tapped Scrubland. I cast an innocent Pyrite Spellbomb so as to keep David under control and pass. On my end step, the Archon gets Cyclonic Rifted for the 3rd time this game. The social stack opens as Baal vividly protests. The rift resolves and priority resets. I use this opportunity to flash Aven Mind Sensor, showing Leite he needs to do better if he wants to abuse the Wishclaw Talisman on my watch. Leite takes one from Mana Vault and plays Underground Sea. He casts both Dimir Signet and Elves of Deep Shadow. Ramped up, he passes. David takes 4 from the library. He proceeds to play Fire Shrieker and equip it onto his Plague Stinger, which means that anytime he can mutate Brokkos onto it, someone will die. He attacks Baal for 2 poison just because he does not have the Archon out. Then David passes. Baal gets to his turn and plays an Ancient Tomb. He uses it to cast Blood Moon, pretty much destroying me with a single card. At least for now. He then casts the Archon for the 4th time before letting me play. I start up with a tapped, non-basic, mountainous Godless Shrine. I then cast Shadow Skull Smashing to take out Leite's mana dorks, so he's also sent back. Leite complains I keep targeting his stuff, but that's what you get when your deck can win much more consistently than everyone else's. On my end step, he uses Noxious Revival to get back the Rift. Leite finally untaps his Mana Vault. He's not looking to cast the Rift until he absolutely has to, because otherwise he is losing his out to win the match. With that in mind, he plays a tapped, mountainous Mana Confluence and passes. David loses another 4 to the library, keeping a steady influx of cards. He then attacks Leite with the Stinger once again, gifting an additional 2 poison. David plays an Evolution Sage and plays a tapped mountainous Ancient Tomb, triggering the Sage and proliferating Leite's and Baal's Infect. Baal plays a Scroll Rack and activates it for 2. He plays a Rugged Prairie and passes to me. This game is getting extra grindy. I play a tapped Mountainous Flooded Strand before passing. On his turn, Leite, however, decides to activate the Wish Claw and give it to Baal without counters. His idea is that his overloaded Rift will indeed give him a new Wish Claw. He looks at the top 4 and chooses one, a Snow Forest, which he gladly plays before passing. This time around, David does not lose life to his library. He attacks Leite with Evolution Sage and me with the Stinger. I'm pretty sure that he will have some pump ready, but still crack the Spell Bomb to try and kill his Infect creature. David saved it with Mutagenic Growth. I do not block with Mind Sensor, just because Leite's win potential outweighs David's Infect potential. I get 6 poison in one go. Fun! The table breeds as David does not play a land. Baal plays a mountainous Wooded Foothills and casts Loyal Apprentice, which he uses to pressure David's life total before passing. Mine and Leite's turns are pretty simple, with me drawing and passing while Leite does pretty much the same, but with a tapped Ancient Tomb to boot. It should be noted that this time around, David does a neat trick. The first draw of the turn actually goes before the library's other 2. He uses this moment to activate the Divining Top and dig an extra card deeper. David does not lose life, instead moving to combat and sending both creatures at Leite to try and get him to Rift. Leite keeps a steady hand, refusing to go there. David isn't too happy about that, but at least Leite took the full damage. On his end step, Baal Scroll Racks for 2 once again. He attacks David with his apprentice as soon as it's his turn. He activates Scroll Rack for 2 and tries to finally force Leite's hand as he casts Keldon Firebombers. We all tap to add mana in response, not sure where Baal might be headed. The Firebombers trigger and each of us sacrifices lands until we have only 3. Baal intends to move to another step and Leite casts a Cyclonic Rift to get back in the game. David organizes the top 3 and swaps the Divining Top, but otherwise the Rift resolves. This way, Baal forced the Rift to come out and a new round of priority begins, so he plays Shadow Skull the Hammered Pass and casts Loyal Apprentice again. Before he moves to end step, I crack Flooded Strand for a basic plains and use my mana to flash in Aven Mind Sensor. In response, David casts Vampiric Tutor. In response to that, I flash Notion Thief as well. Everything resolves. Pretty big turn. I play an Arid Mesa, crack it for a Tundra and cast Smothering Tide, which will allow me to play around the Blood Moon. I hit Leite again for 5 to prevent a desperate ad nauseam and then pass. Leite pays for my Tithe trigger with Ancient Tomb. He plays Urborg Tomb of Yawgmoth and casts both Ikra Shiriki and Wishclaw Talisman, looking to finally regain some life. David does not pay for Tithe, instead casting Sol Ring. He plays Evolution Sage and plays a Swamp, proliferating our poison to increasingly dangerous numbers. He ends that up with Plague Stinger, threatening to possibly kill someone in one turn cycle. Baal also does not pay for Smothering Tide. He plays a Mana Confluence and looks to casting Winota, intending on banking on that Loyal Apprentice trigger. He gets a Hasted Thopter at the beginning of combat. I warn Baal that his Infect total is just enough that it might motivate David to kill him with Brokkos first. Baal says he's willing to risk that and attacks me with a token, finding a Combat Celebrant that he sends at David, further signaling the Infect player of a potential target. We both take the damage. Baal passes. On my turn, I start up with a Mox Opal. I then decide to cast Praetor's Grasp on Leite, thinking of ways to interact with the table. Keeping that in mind, Baal casts Swords to Plowshares on the Vid's Stinger, because he fears I might look for something to protect the Stinger and let the Vid kill him. This is fairly in line with what I was going to do, but now I have something better. I find myself a Windfall, which I merrily cast. No one has interaction, so I draw a whopping 28 cards thanks to Notion Thief, all the while taking everyone else's hands from the equation. I cast Mana Crypt and play Command Tower. I cast Entomb for Lion's Eye Diamond and top that up with casting Underworld Breach. This allows me to cast LED from the graveyard and spell Doom on everyone since I already have Brain Freeze at the ready. This allows me to mill myself fully with Brain Freeze and then mill everyone else so that they die on each of their draw steps. No one has Eldrazi Titans, and even if they did, I could simply cast something like Bitter Ordeal to take them out. Good game. Thank you for joining us for today's matches, everyone. My anti-wincon Akiri and Silas managed to come out on top thanks to Praetor's Grasp. We'd like to start the credits by thanking our current patrons, and especially Izanagi, Stefan, TJ Rapp, Mike Purr, Ajimu, Iglegal, Heated Chill, Drunken Housecat, and LL Coolrat, our stack breakers. As we've announced at the beginning of this video, we have 2 giveaways running. If you're a patron by the 1st of November, you'll be eligible to win Magic Fest Sol Ring, MechaGodzilla Hangarback Walker, Buy a Box Chord of Calling, and Bring a Friend Edition Reliquary Tower. As for our non-patron subscribers, all you need to do is comment on this or upcoming videos with hashtag giveaway and your favorite moment from any of our videos to be eligible to win. Foil Japanese Crystalline Giant, Buy a Box Wrath of God, MechaGodzilla Hangarback Walker, and a Bring a Friend Edition Reliquary Tower. All of these cards were graciously sponsored by our LGS Arena Porto, which has been adamant in their support to our channel. If you want to go through other Commander adventures, click one of the videos on the right. If you want to talk with us about our games or other EDH related matters, join us on Discord. Come with us again next week for a new set of Commanders and more decisive plays. See you all then.